Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. Today I'm wondering, what could our industry regulators and enforcers learn from Ofsted? So I thought this was an interesting point. I've recently become a governor at a primary school, and as a governor I have been witness to Ofsted, and as part of that regulatory inspection I've noticed there's been some changes in recent years following obviously the very sad case of Ruth Perry and her tragic case of the outcome from her Ofsted inspection, which didn't go particularly well. So I've been thinking about what could we learn from Ofsted and the improvements that they've made to improve the way that we operate, or the way the industry operates from an enforcement and regulatory perspective. So Ofsted was subject to some really heavy criticism about their approach, particularly with head teachers and their mental health and well-being. And it got me thinking about it, because certainly recently, certainly people in my network that I'm aware of have had traffic commissioner public inquiry call-up letters. One on Christmas Eve, a single mother received an OTC call-up letter on Christmas Eve, and another very professional colleague of mine, who I think is absolutely fantastic and very positive for the industry, also got a call-up letter recently on his birthday. Both of which the regulator would know about. The regulator would know when someone's birthday is as well. So it's got me thinking around the duty of care from a regulatory perspective, and maybe exploring, with the experience I've had recently with Ofsted, is there anything that we could learn? So the thing is Ofsted they removed the overall effectiveness grade for a starting point. No longer do they issue outstanding and good to schools, for example, and actually a lot of schools have moved away from the outstanding and good grading. Inspections focus on 4 key areas: quality of education, behaviour and attitudes, personal development, and the leadership and management of the school. I just wonder if we could maybe look at things in a more holistic way. And the new grading scale, there's a new 5-point grading scale, which is used to evaluate each area, including the new exemplary grade. And this is to provide more detailed information about a school's strengths and weaknesses, for example. Changes to ungraded inspections were made, and there was an increased focus on wellbeing. So there was a real opportunity, certainly for teachers, to focus on making sure that inspectors were focusing on ensuring the well-being of the team, and it included the national team for inspectors and schools to address well-being concerns and guidance to pause inspections, and provided training for inspectors as an example. And other changes included returning to schools with identified weaknesses and focusing on progress. And the overall ethos was around moving to a more supportive way of, rather than catching schools out, to actually work together with them. And I think actually as an industry we're pretty good at working together. I think what needs to be made clear is that there is a real challenge around the fear factor when it comes to the industry regulator, and there's a real balance to be found there, because the issue is for any transport manager, it's like the worst day ever if you were to get a call-up letter for a public inquiry. And I don't know really how we change that without softening the roles of the regulator. So this is a really tricky thing, and I'm not necessarily calling for us to soften the system, because we need to ensure that we have a robust system. But it's a thought process. It's very much a thought process that I've been going through more recently with these cases, and I just really wanted to sort of explore it out loud, I suppose. So, Ofsted shifted towards a more collaborative and human approach, making inspections feel less like they've gotcha and more like an actual conversation. More pre-inspection dialogue, an emphasis on professional respect. And I think certainly some of the reports I hear is it's important that we toe a line as an industry around offering people professional respect. I think even when people have made mistakes, for example, because I think it's really challenging, isn't it, if people have been really, absolutely disregarded good practice. But this links in a little bit with the innocent until proven guilty or guilty until proven innocent conversation I was having the other day. I just fear that sometimes we operate in a culture of fear. And I think it is right that transport managers and operators fear the regulator. But I also think that unless there's maybe there's a move to be made, unless there's really clear evidence of malpractice, that actually there's a bit more respect shown around the process that's followed, I think is probably the point that I make.
Hi, I'm Shani from Flagship Partners. We're proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast, your go-to source for all things fleet management. If you're looking for expert advice or high-quality training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We're also thrilled to announce the launch of our Fleet Academy, designed to support and develop future fleet leaders through expert-led and career-focused training. Our offering includes fully accredited courses such as the Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher courses, OLAC training, plus ongoing mentoring, support and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is simple: to develop elite fleet professionals who drive excellence across the industry. Let's shape the future of our fleet management together.
Must be very terrible for those two people in my network recently to have got a call-up letter on Christmas Eve, the day before. Mum has to show up as mum and be a wonderful parent, and certainly the day of a significant birthday celebration is, I don't understand why we couldn't look to maybe wait to deliver those until, the new year in the case of Christmas Eve. What difference would it make, those 2 weeks of fear and worry and not being able to take action as everything's closed down and solicitors aren't operating, for example? So I just feel wholeheartedly that I think we should think a bit more about that, and perhaps we should look to, like I say, just really consider about the impact on people's well-being and mental health is certainly the thought process I've had. Making sure, so one of the things Ofsted have done is publishing full reports with full context, so moving away from this single word judgment. And I just wonder if there's learnings there about how we can be more transparent in decision making and decisions reached from a PI perspective. And OCRS, I think to be fair, the PI reports tend to be quite detailed. They have a focus on that. So I think that's important, and making sure that we include broader context in published decisions. I do think that the rhetoric is that decisions from the regulator tend to be like a public telling off or embarrassing. And I wonder if there's more of an operator's voice around, or a more nuanced report, which could increase fairness potentially around the learning opportunities that were found and the commitment to good practice and highlighting the good things that go on, for example. The third thing is around this focus on mental health and well-being. So Ofsted have made sure that they acknowledge the emotional toll that inspections and making well-being a priority. They've really focused on that, and I feel like this is a potential improvement area, is realizing that actually an MIVR or a TEVR or going and having tea and biscuits with the traffic commissioner is going to have a significant emotional, financial, it's a torrid time for an individual as a transport manager, as a driver, as an operator. It's a really torrid time. They're already under a massive amount of pressure, heavy-handed audits, letters with real legalistic toning can put people over the edge and strike fear into them. And whilst I believe there should be an element of fear, because there's something, we need to avoid these situations, at the same time, I think there's some well-being principles that could be put into place considering the tone of letters and the reports, making sure that everything's written really clearly. A poorly worded prohibition or treatment from a DVSA officer, for example, could feel like a death sentence. It could feel, like the impact that could have from somebody. And I don't know that all of the officers have got that training that they need to be able to really realise the impact that they have on the people they're working with. So another change from an Ofsted perspective was around the use of data like performance statistics, but not using them in isolation and triangulating them with real world evidence and professional dialogue. And I just wonder if, rather than having a RAG system, there's recognizing that data, from our perspective, recognizing that data, for example, one missed PMI, a missed driver download, or a driver pulling their card that wasn't picked up on and that is going to be followed up on, essentially giving operators a chance to be able to tell their side of the story without a judgment being made, I think is really important. And sort of acknowledging that mistakes do happen sometimes. And I think that it's important that there's reassurance and working together as a strategy. The fifth is around it being a learning system, not just enforcement. And I do think the OTC will often work on this basis that there is learning opportunities. I do think they do that. However, I think that sometimes there's been overly judicious decisions from a DVSA officer perspective. I can think of certain cases, so this involvement from inspect and punish to inspect and improve, and creating a system-wide learning culture, I think is something. It's nuanced. What I'm talking about is very nuanced here, and I'm not saying that anything's specifically right or wrong. It's a nuanced conversation, and I think we should shift the mindset from being gatekeepers to being growth partners. And sharing best practice widely, and we do that. We do share best practice, and I think it's important that we just work on that, really. So there's a few different suggestions there, and I think there's about this evolution from being compliance cops to becoming coaches, I suppose, to working on partnership and a path to a performance rather than just working on punishment. It's, like I say, it's a very nuanced conversation. I'm not saying that we're not doing things right at the moment, but certainly it got me thinking about how we could maybe do it better, based on the fact that I know there's been emotional turbulence, certainly for a couple of people in my network recently, and it just got me thinking about, is there a better way? Is there another way? And I'm just going to ask the question. I'm interested to hear people's feedback. So thank you for listening. I hope that's been an interesting conversation. Speak to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.